Hey, paging, Chicago Cubs offense. Paging, Chicago Cubs offense. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I am your host, Mike Jones, here with another episode of Chicago Cubs Central. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe to Chicago Cubs Central. Also, make sure that you join our Chicago Cubs Central Facebook group. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching this on Spotify or if you're watching this on Apple, make sure that you leave a 5-star review and a comment. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and the vision that we have for it. All right, y'all, listen, we had another disappointing loss for the Chicago Cubs. I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but it was unfortunate. It was disappointing for our Chicago Cubs, who had a chance here plenty of times to even this game up. Unfortunately, just could not get it done. Chicago Cubs struggled mightily offensively from their main spots that they needed the offense to come from. And that's a big part of what I want to talk about here. I want to talk about the fact that the Chicago Cubs, Michael Busch went 0 for 3 in this game, was eventually replaced by Carson Kelly, who pinch hit for him and went 1 for 1. I want to talk about Alex Bregman, who went 0 for 4 in this game. I want to talk about Ian Happ, who went 0 for 2 in this game. I want to talk about Pete Crow Armstrong, who went 0 for 3 in this game. I want to talk about Dansby Swanson, who went 0 for 3 in this game. I want to talk about Matt Shaw, who went 0 for 3 in this game. You know, I don't understand how the Chicago Cubs brass can expect this team to be able to take on a team with the firepower such as the Dodgers when they are struggling to face teams and beat teams like the Angels and the Nationals. Guys, you got some work to do. You got some work to do. This team is not complete. Now, I understand things will look a little different once you get Seiya Suzuki back, but not too much different. Not different enough to say that you're going to be able to compete with the Dodgers. Not different enough to say that you're going to be able to compete with the Phillies, or you're going to be able to compete, with the Mets, or you're going to be able to compete with the other powerhouse teams in the National League. This is another one of those disappointing losses that the Chicago Cubs should have won. This is a game the Cubs should have won. You went out there and you faced the Angels team that you should have beat. Now the Chicago Cubs find themselves 2-3 on the season. I'm not even the loss as much as just not being able to muster up any offense. It's frustrating for me as a fan to sit back and watch this team struggle. And you got to watch 9 innings, 2 hours, 35 minutes, almost 3 hours of a team not being able to push one run across the plate. You can't call yourself elite and not be able to push one run across the plate. Let's look at their counterparts. Let's look at the other teams in the division that are playing. Milwaukee 4-1, St. Louis 3-2, Cincinnati 3-2. The Chicago Cubs are down at the bottom of the division with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now you're supposed to be vying with Milwaukee for the Central Division crown, right? Well, Milwaukee, pretty much every time they find themselves down outside of once, they come back. And they don't just come back, they come back in dramatic fashion and win baseball games. You can't say the same thing for the Chicago Cubs so far this season. We're seeing a trend here where the same issues that the Chicago Cubs had plagued them last year are still plaguing them. There has to be some type of change, some type of differential. There has to come some type of change. You have to get some type of offense going. And mind you, these guys have locked up their infield, so that change has to come out in the outfield or from the catcher position, because those are the only spots. Either that or you get a better DH than Moises Ballesteros, which, again, I hate saying that. The kid's just young. He's just young. And if your expectation is to compete this season, you might have should have went out and signed somebody like Eugenio Suarez. You might have should have went out and signed somebody that has a big bat that can offer you more from the DH role. Because these are gimme games. These ain't the hard games. The hard games haven't happened yet. And the Chicago Cubs are losing the gimme games. That's frustrating. That's frustrating for the team. That's frustrating for the manager. That's frustrating for, for fans, more importantly, that braved the cold weather, that braved, all of the things that that they were going through to get there to the game to support the team, just to watch the team lay an egg. That's unfortunate, man. That's unfortunate. Jose Soriano had the Chicago Cubs hitters guessing. He pitched 2 hit ball over 6 scoreless innings for the second time in 2 starts. Now, mind you, he is the best pitcher on the Angels. So they were facing the best. But at the same time, I just expect more out of these guys. J-Mo, on the other side, went 4 2/3, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. He pitched on 85 pitches, 52 of those being strikes. Hobie Milner came in, relieved him, got the final out. Then after that, Phil Maton only made it two-thirds of an inning. He allowed 2 hits, 2 earned runs, and 2 walks, and 1 strikeout. He gave up the 2 runs that cost Chicago Cubs the game. Ben Brown came in after him, pitched 3 3.3 inning, allowed 1 hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. Ben Brown's hasn't been bad for the Chicago Cubs this season. For what it's worth, Ben Brown has not been bad for the Chicago Cubs this season. So, I mean, like I said, he has shown you the flashes of what he could be or what he's supposed to be. Getting the outs, being an innings eater for the Chicago Cubs, and being somebody that they could trust. Phil Maton, we got to figure something out. Because he ain't look great. He ain't look great, guys. I don't know. He's getting hit hard. He ain't look great. He was a big major addition to this bullpen. He's going to have to figure some things out. We'll have to see what happens with that. I want to put the onus on one Pete Crow-Armstrong. And I know that a lot of times we give Pete a pass because we know how tough Pete is on himself. But I do just have to point out that we do need Pete to step it up. Pete Crow-Armstrong has to step it up in order for the Chicago Cubs team to be anything. Still no home runs, only 2 RBIs on the season. 263 batting average right now. 596 OPS. Cubs have played 5 games so far this season. We need you, Pete. Cubs need you. Cubs need you. Again, I don't want to overreact because it's still super early in the season. But it's just, these are games that you expect the team to win. And this is a flash of what you're going to see throughout the season. There are going to be games where the Chicago Cubs struggle to muster up any offense. And it's sad because these are always the winnable games. It's not like they're getting blown out by 8 runs. The pitchers are keeping them in the game. It's just that the offense can't muster up anything. And it's frustrating for the fans to sit and watch that. Just as I'm sure it's frustrating for the players to live it. I don't know. We got to figure something else out. Cubs got to figure something else out. Maybe a retooling of the lineup, not like reconfiguring the lineup a little bit, tinkering a little bit, seeing what else is out there. Maybe these are all things that the Chicago Cubs could do. We'll just have to see, man. Craig Counsell will get innovative. Dustin Kelly will get innovative with this team. But the Chicago Cubs finished the month of March 2-3. We head into month of April at the bottom of the division. We got one more against the Angels. Then we are off on Thursday. And then Friday, on Friday, they play the Guardians at 3:10. And then they play the Guardians again on Saturday and then again on Sunday. So let's preview the Wednesday game. Matthew Boyd gets a chance at redemption after his defeat against the Nationals, where he laid a complete goose egg up there and looked horrible. Matthew Boyd will get his chance against Yusei Kikuchi of the Angels. So the Chicago Cubs will see him for the very first time. He has a 4.15 ERA, a whip of 2.08. He pitched 4 1/3 innings in his first outing for the Angels. He did not have a decision in there. Meanwhile, Matthew Boyd is 0-1 with a 14.73 ERA, a whip of 1.91, and he pitched 3 2/3 innings in his first outing. So be very curious to see what Matthew Boyd does, what changes, adjustments he makes, again, and how he can keep himself out of trouble against those Angels hitters. It's going to be imperative. I can tell you guys, the Chicago Cubs do not have a lot of offense. It is going to be imperative that these pitchers start good and serve until the Chicago Cubs can get a run or two. It's just going to be imperative. The Chicago Cubs do not play well, have not served well playing from behind this season. Not so far, at least. It's only 5 games, but they have struggled. And it's only going to get tougher. The season is only going to get tougher. The real teams are coming in April. You face the Dodgers, you face the Padres, you face the Phillies twice, you face the Mets. You're going to play some real heavy hitters in the month of April. And if you can't beat these easy teams, you are really going to struggle against the good teams. We'll see what the Chicago Cubs have in store, man. We'll see how things figure out. But we got to figure this offensive thing out. Chicago Cubs could find themselves in a deep rut by the end of April that they may have to try to dig themselves out of for the rest of the season if this offense don't come around. If Michael Busch don't stay at least warm, and if PCA don't figure it out, Chicago Cubs could be in for a rough go. We'll see, though, man. I want to know you guys' thoughts below. What are your thoughts on the game, on everything that happened? Let me know. Comments. Who do you think needs to step up for the Chicago Cubs Wednesday so the Chicago Cubs can go to 3-3 on the season? It's a 1:20 start time for that game, so we'll be excited to see what you guys have in store. Until next time, make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe. Go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.